deny yourself. So let's look at the scriptures that are incorporated in this particular part. Is Matthew 16, 21 through 26, Mark chapter 8, 31 through 37, and Luke chapter 9, 22 through 25. I think we can probably read Matthew. I don't believe, aside from one small point which will reference, we have everything the same basically in Matthew. So let's look at Matthew. And there is one part that we'll read Matthew and Mark just so we can see the difference. We'll read Matthew and Mark's version just so we can see the difference. So let's look at Matthew 16 and start at verse 21.
I was trying to write the scriptures down.
Matthew chapter 16, verse 21. From that time, Yeshua began to show his top ones that it was necessary for him to go to Jerusalem and to suffer much from the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed and to be raised again the third day. And Kepha took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, Be kind to yourself, master. This shall not be to you. He turned to Kepha and said to Kepha, Peter, Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for your thoughts are not those of Elohim, but those of men. 24. Then Yeshua said to his top ones, If anyone wishes to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his stake and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life shall lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake shall find it. For what is a man profited if he gains all the world and loses his own life? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his life? For the Son of Adam is going to come in the esteem of his Father with his messengers, and then he shall reward each according to his works. Truly, I say to you, there are some standing here who shall not taste death at all until they see the Son of Man coming in his reign.
Okay, go over to Mark. Go over to Mark 8, 31 through 37.
Mark 8:31, and he began to teach them that the Son of Adam has to suffer much and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed, and after 3 days to rise again. And he was speaking about this openly. Then Kepha, taking him aside, began to rebuke him. And turning around and seeing his top ones, he rebuked Kepha, saying, Get behind me, Satan, for your thoughts are not those of Elohim, but those of men. And calling near the crowd with his top ones, he said to them, Whoever desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his stake and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life shall lose it, but whoever loses his life for the sake of me and the good news, he shall save it. For what shall it profit a man if he gains all the world and loses his own life? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his life?
Okay. All right, very good. So let us go back over to Matthew 16. And when we look at that first verse there, 21, Yeshua adds to something that he's already spoken already. Previously, the people, the scribes and the Pharisees, they asked Yeshua, what is a sign? Show me a sign. And Yeshua's like, the only sign that's going to be given is the sign of Jonah. But over here, he adds now more to that when he talks about the fact that he's got to get to Jerusalem. Not only does he got to get to Jerusalem, but he's going to suffer from the elders. The elders and the chief priests and the scribes are going to cause him to suffer. He's going to be killed. And he's going to raise again the third day. Now, this is the first time he starts to even talk about this idea of his death. He says before the whole thing about Jonah, but he doesn't elaborate as to what that actually means. He doesn't talk about the fact that it deals with his death. And him being in the fish is like unto him being in the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. And so it's interesting that we see that Yeshua adds to this sign and he begins to speak now of his death. He doesn't get into too much of what the significance of his death is, only just to say that he needs to go to Jerusalem and these people are going to kill me. And so imagine being one of the disciples and hearing Yeshua go and talk about, let's go to the place where they're going to kill me. I know I'm going to be killed, and I know who's going to kill me, so let's go to that place. Is essentially what he says here. Right? It's necessary. Necesito. It's necessary for him to go to Jerusalem. For these people, these specific people who are at this point looking for him. At this point, these people that he's naming here are the people that are actually trying to find him anyway. So let's go to where they are in great concentration, because these guys, the scribes and elders, they're all over the place. But let's go to the place where they are in concentration. Let them find me and let them kill me. And so imagine what that would be like as one of the disciples. And it seems like Peter says what anybody would say.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
He said over here in this version, be kind to yourself. Why would you do this thing to yourself that is against your own self? Be kind to yourself, Master. This shall not be to you. We're not going to take you. We're not going to let this happen to you. We can't go over here where the people going to kill you and just let them kill you.
Yeah.
You talking about raising up on the third day? We're like, they don't know what he's talking about. And so it just seems when you look at the response that Peter has for the response that Yeshua has to Peter, at a glance, it seems, it don't seem like it matches necessarily. at his face. Because Peter's like, you're the master. We don't want you to be in harm's way. We don't want you to die. We don't want something bad to happen to you. At this point, where they at? They're kind of like in the things is just really getting going for them. But read 23 again, where it says right there, 16:23.
It says, but he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. For your thoughts are not those of Elohim, but those of men."
How is this an appropriate response to Peter's words here? Get behind me, Satan. When what Peter really is desiring, it seems here, is for the Master Yeshua to be safe and out of harm's way. How is the Master, how is Yeshua's response to Peter, how is that the appropriate response?
He was letting them know. He said, your thoughts are not those of Elohim. He didn't know what he was there to do. He's like, look, this is why I'm here. You trying to mess my story up. You trying to mess my book up. This one I'm about to be written about. So, and he understood that, and he was letting them know. We know Satan, that's the adversary to the Most High. So if Yeshua was like, you know what, you're right, Peter, let's get on this boat and let's sail away somewhere, we couldn't have the story we got right here.
Yeah, because it really is what Peter is talking about doing is what they've been doing really this whole time. They've been getting mobbed. They've been getting kind of chased down by this one or that one. Kind of trying to keep things on the low. Stuff gets heavy and hot in one area and they move to another. And so what Peter is suggesting is just kind of a continuation of what they're already doing. Let's not get into the frying pan. Let's stay out. But what Yeshua is talking about, again, this is the first time that Yeshua mentions, this connecting this whole 3 days thing and actually adding death to the situation. But the whole point, what Peter don't know about, is the fact that this thing must be so in order for Yeshua to actually realize his purpose here in the first place. And so it's interesting that this could be, we don't know necessarily the time frame between verse 25 and verse 26. Because he just got finished saying to Peter, you're saying what you're saying only because the Holy Spirit told you.
Well, that is true.
You're only saying the thing that the Most High put in your mind for you to say. And then not too far later, your thoughts aren't those of Elohim, but those of men. The thing that you're saying don't got nothing to do with the Most High. You saying the exact opposite of what it is that the Most High will have for you to be saying. You speaking the devil's words. But he just got finished speaking the Most High's words when he said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living Elohim." And so it kind of helps us to see the idea of, something Paul talks about, whoever it is that you serve, that's your master. Whether it be carnality or whether it be the spirit. The one that you listening to is the one who is leading you and guiding you, and that is who your master is. So just a minute ago, his master could have been the Most High. Again, I don't know what the time frame is between what he said in the verses before verse 20 and verse 20 and before, but here he's obviously speaking something that is working against the plan and the works of the will of the Father. And so anytime, we're having words or plans or works that work against the will of the Father, these things are for the adversary. And so for Peter, the thing that he's doing here is working for the plan of the devil. It sounds good. "Oh, Master, we don't want you to die. We don't want any harm to come to you." But if what he's saying is realized, then Yeshua don't die for the sins of the people, which is what he came to do.
So basically Peter was telling him not to deny himself. He said, "Be kind to yourself."
Hold on, he's telling him what?
Well,
He
it
said,
says, "You won't wish to come after me, though, deny himself."
Oh, we didn't even talk about that. Because, again, when we think about what's being said at a glance, it almost don't even fit. These things almost aren't even congruent with one another when you think about it. The Yeshua's talking about, let's go to this place where the people gonna kill me at. Yeshua say, "Nah, you speaking from the devil. The words you speaking is a stumbling block to me." And then the very next thing that Yeshua talks about is, "If anyone wish to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his stake and follow me." When you look at these things kind of just on the surface, they almost don't even match with one another. Because Peter's not talking about his own self. His concern is not about his own self. Yeshua didn't say, "Let's go to Jerusalem so that the people could kill you." He said, "Let's go to Jerusalem. I'm going to be killed. Yeshua's going to be killed and raised on the third day." And so Peter's not dealing with saving his own self. He's dealing with saving Yeshua. And then what Yeshua comes out and talks about is for you to deny yourself. But it seems like Peter is denying himself. He's not even talking about things that's going to benefit him, unless you take it all the way back to say, well, if something happens to Messiah, then that's going to be something bad on me because Messiah helps me. Like, I guess you could kind of go roundabout way, bring it back to Peter, but directly, Peter's concern is for the master. But Peter isn't aware of the grand scope of things. He's not aware of the plan of the master, so we don't know the thing that he's saying is something that hinders the actual plan of Yeshua. And so we kind of have to have this underlying idea of what's going on to match what Yeshua says in verse 24 to everything here. Because again, the thing that Peter says seemingly doesn't have anything to do with Peter himself, and has everything to do with Messiah. But what we must be able to distinguish through the power of the Ruach is what is you and what is him. What are the things that the Most High is doing? What are the things that the Most High is causing to come forth and be manifest? And what are the things that you in your own self is doing? What are your plans? What are the things that you seek to work out? And what are the things that the Most High seeks to work out? What are his plans? And are those two things congruent with one another? Peter thought that he was speaking on behalf of the plan of the Most High and saying, we got to save you, we got to keep you safe. But meanwhile, he's actually speaking the words of the devil, because Yeshua's very purpose on this earth is so that he could die. And so Peter, although he just recently spoke a thing that based on what Yeshua said came straight from Elohim, the next thing that we see come out of his mouth didn't. Right? And so it's necessary for us to be able to look at this and understand that we have to be able to distinguish between the Ruach and our own carnal mind. Because sometimes things that we could think in our minds, sometimes the things that we think might be coming from the Most High, and things that we might think are in line with the plans of the Almighty are from the devil. And it don't even seem, at a glance, it don't even seem wrong for Peter to be thinking in this way. Like the thing that he's talking about is totally unselfish. He said, be kind to yourself, master. This shall not be to you. We can't take you up here. We can't allow you to go up here and die. But he don't understand this whole raised again on the third day part. He don't understand the thing that Yeshua's coming to initiate. But all he would be essentially doing by not allowing Yeshua to follow through with what he was doing is building the desires and the plan of the adversary. Let's go over to Matthew chapter 6 and verse 10.
Matthew 6 and 10. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven.
A thing that Yeshua, when he speaks to his disciples, that he's saying that he would have for the disciples to have in their minds in terms of what they're requesting of the Father is for the kingdom, those things which are in the kingdom, let those things be manifest in the earth. The things that are connected to the Father, whether it be his government, his will, his understandings, his characters, those things that are in the heavens, let those things be on the earth. And so the thing that when we think about the will of the Most High, the will of the Most High is 100% in effect in the heavens. Everything that he wants and desires to be is going on. Now here we can say, on earth we could say in the big scope of things that is also the case. But intertwined in all of that is things that aren't in line with his will. But because of who he is, those things can be intermixed in the goings on, and it still double back and get to the place where he wants for things to be at. But that's what sin is, right? Sin is something that's contrary to the will of the Most High. And so outside of his presence, sin exists, and people go against the will of the Most High. People sin.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but in spite of that, his will is still done. But we seek for and we long for the hope that we have in Yeshua is that at one point his unadulterated will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so all we do now is allow for his will to be manifest in and through us. And so when we think about the role of the Torah, when we think about the role of the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, Yeshua says, look over in John 14 and 26, what Yeshua says.
John
14 and verse 26.
But the Comforter, which is the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you.
When we think about the Spirit, when we think about the role of the Spirit, the role of the Ruach HaKodesh, and what it talks about in Ezekiel 36 and 26, we talk about the getting a new heart, taking away the stony heart and replacing it with a heart of flesh and causing you to do the commandments. When we think about what said just in John 14, when we just looked at verse 26, where Yeshua said he's going to bring all things to your remembrance, all the things that I taught you back to your remembrance. So the role of the Spirit, the role that the Spirit has with the people of the Almighty, the role of the Spirit is for it to draw from the character of the Most High that has been implanted in you, to draw from that and cause you to walk in a way that is like unto that, yes, or upright. And so, if you ain't got no word in you, how is he going to pull from something to cause you to do a thing? How's he going to bring something to your remembrance if, like, you're remembering something that happened already? That's what remembrancing is.
Yeah.
You remember something that already happened. So he can draw from something that is there, but how do we draw from something that isn't there?
Right.
And so now we get back to this idea of, us, following after our inner voice, right?
Mhm.
People say, people talk about knowledge of self. I don't like that when people talk about knowledge of self. Looking inside yourself and finding this or that. Unless we're able to understand what the character of the Most High is, which we don't naturally know, which we must be taught what the character of the Most High is, unless we have that, we already see what the effects of that is. If you have a people who aren't shown and directed in rightness, what you have is wickedness.
Yeah.
Default. You're going to automatically act up. I got to teach you how to act right. And so, Paul talks about the fact that the law is a schoolmaster that brings you to Messiah. So these things work hand in hand with one another. So we have to have the character of the Most High implanted inside of us so then the Ruach can come and draw from it. Because without that, we got people sitting up here saying, well, the Spirit told me to do thus and so. And then when I look at the thus and so that you had just said that the Spirit caused you to do, there's nothing in the scriptures that I'm able to look at and say, that looks like this. In fact, the thing that you're saying that the Most High caused you to do is the exact opposite of this. Kind of just like how we looked at Korah's rebellion. They might sit up there and say, well, the Spirit told me that y'all was up here operating on some nepotism. So now I want y'all to sit up here and let me be in control. Meanwhile, the Most High is the one who set it up. You can't be mad at Moses and Aaron because the Most High said what he said. And so our thoughts and our ideas, our words and our actions have to be in line with the word of the Most High. And so looking at Peter, I guess on the surface, his thoughts and plans and ideas were about the preservation of Yeshua. But those things was all carnal thoughts. Because Yeshua's, his duty, his plan, the thing that he came here to do is spiritual. He came here actually to die. When we think about the Lamb of Elohim, something that is interesting when we look at, I think it's in John, whenever John the Baptist talks about the coming of Yeshua, I'm saying the actual coming, him coming over here and saying, oh, behold the Lamb of Elohim. The idea of the Lamb of Elohim, I think, is not something that, we see throughout the scripture, but when we're able to think about the scripture kind of in a macrocosm and see the big picture of it, we're able to understand that who Yeshua is as the Lamb of Elohim is the Passover Lamb. And so what does it look like for the Passover Lamb to not die?
When you go get the lamb, it ain't. I don't know. Lambs usually don't run away. We try to run away. When you taking them up to the altar, to the slaughter place, they real. Come on. So he was presenting himself. He was like, look.
You're not gonna run.
He's just going with the flow of what
The will
is going on.
Yeah.
And so, he's allowing for the plan to go forth. And so I'm saying, like, as the Passover lamb, what do he look like? Fleeing, running off. It disrupts the whole plan. And so it's interesting when we look back at Matthew with how Yeshua responds to all of this. When we think about what he says in verse 24 back in Matthew chapter 16, verse 24, if anyone wishes to come after me, let him deny himself. It was something that we don't even understand that Peter's doing when he says what he says. We don't understand that what Peter's saying is according to his flesh. But Yeshua, of course, understands it. But something that I wanted to bring up here, because remember now, in verse 22, read Matthew 16:22 again.
It says, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, be kind to yourself, master, this shall not be to you.
Okay, so they're all together, Messiah, the disciples. Peter hears what Yeshua says, and then he pulls Yeshua to the side. And so he should have been able to get away with this thing that it was misunderstanding on his part. He should have been able to get away with it because he pulls him to the side. He took him to the side like, hold on, Yeshua, let's think about this now. He pulls him to the side. But look over in Mark chapter 8 and verse 33.
Mark 8:33. And turning around and seeing his top ones, he rebuked Peter, saying, get behind me, Satan, for your thoughts are not those of Elohim, but those of men.
He pulls him to the side, but I don't think he pulled him to the side far enough. Because the thing that he was doing, I think, still was able to be viewed and understood and heard from, by the others, or else why would it even deal with these other ones over here, right? And so the idea is that this thing that Peter is trying to do, this plan that he's mentioning, even though he tried to pull him to the side, he's potentially putting these thoughts and ideas in the rest of the people's mind, because Yeshua, he turns to the other ones to say what he says. And so again, when we look back at Matthew, go back to Matthew 16 and 24, that the idea here is self-denial. Self-denial. Again, when we think about self from a Hebraic standpoint, self is nephesh. Self is your soul. Self is your being. Self is your physical appetites. Those things must be denied. And so he's saying, deny your nephesh, take up your stake, sacrifice your will, sacrifice your desires, sacrifice your appetites for the master, and offer yourself unto the will of the Most High. And follow me. I thought that it was interesting if we pull up the dictionary there in Matthew 16 and 24, where it says, take up his stake. Look at that word there, take up.
Matthew 16. Take or take up?
Take up, yeah.
I, bro.
what you want from the dictionary?
Just a concordance there. That word there, arrow. To lift, take up or away, to raise, to keep in suspense the mind, specifically to sail away. That is weigh, anchor. By Hebraism, compare to Hebrews 53:75. To expiate sin, bear up, carry up, lift up. Look up that Hebrew word there, 5, because he's saying this because, again, remember, Yeshua, of course, is an Israelite. The New Testament is in the Greek, but sometimes he's speaking these things, and the things that he's speaking are Hebraisms. He's saying them in a euphemistic way. He's saying them in a way that hints towards some type of Hebrew thought that we miss because of separation from the culture there. So look at that word there, 5375, which is Nasah. Right? To lift up, to bear, to carry, to furnish, to magnify, to pardon, raise. So when we think about this idea of what is going on with this torture stake, right? This lifting up of it, this raising up of it. You're holding this thing. You're pressing this thing up. You're holding it up. You're lifting it up and you're carrying it up. It's interesting when you look at like some of these army training things where they have the people running around and they're holding up their rifle and they're doing their little laps around, and because you gotta, if you're like in water or something, you gotta hold it up and keep it dry out of the water. You're holding this thing up, you're lifting this thing up. You have to do everything that is within you to hold, to bear up this specific thing. There's an ownership that's involved in it. There's also kind of like a securing aspect in it, a protecting aspect of it. You're making sure that nothing is taken away from. But we're talking about this stake, this thing that is your sacrifice, the means by which you are sacrificed. And so you're protecting your ability to sacrifice yourself. You're making sure that there's nothing that takes away from the thing that you are offering. And so when we think about, how this relates back, and this is Yeshua speaking to Peter, talking about take up your torture stake, make sure nothing happens to your sacrifice. Secure it. Make sure that that is anchored down, that is weighed down and in place. Make sure that you lift that thing up and hold it there in place. Your sacrifice. And so we think about, and this corresponds back to the denial of yourself, because these things are intertwined with one another. When you deny yourself and you take up this torture state, because these things are happening at the same time. You're holding up your torture stake by, in fact, denying yourself. When you're denying your desires and your appetites and your things that are connected to your carnality, you're assuring, making sure that the things that pertaineth unto your spiritualness are being maintained. You're making sure that, like, as you're holding up your spirit, man, in order to do that, it's almost like you have to press down on your carnal man. It's like you're doing two things at once. I'm holding up Messiah as I'm holding down your carnality. And so you're denying yourself and you're lifting up Messiah simultaneously, right? These things are happening. And so you have to be sure that the things that you're desiring, the things that you are striving for, are holding up Messiah, which is what Peter wasn't doing. The thing that he was desiring wasn't holding up Messiah. In fact, he was doing the opposite. He was holding him back if he was going to be stopping him from dying. And so now when we think about this from a spiritual perspective, it becomes clear when Yeshua is talking about what he says over in 25 and 26. Can you read those again? Verse 25 and 26.
Yeah, for whoever wishes to save his life shall lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake shall find it. For what is a man profited if he gains all the world and loses his own life? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his life?
So we have to think about now again the will of the Father. We have to think about again the things that are congruent with the character of the Most High. If you're trying to save your own carnal desires and your own carnal appetites, your life is you'll lose. But if you seek to put to the forefront and lift up those things which pertaineth unto everlasting life, true life is what you will receive. If you wish to save your carnal soul and your carnal mind, your life will be lost. Your soul will be lost. But whoever loses his carnal mind and his own physical desires, whoever loses those things for the sake of the master, will find his life. Yeshua is life. I mean, we can go out here in this world and make all types of accomplishments and gain all types of things in this world. But at the end of the day, if we're gaining these things, and we're putting all of our energy into these carnal appetites and desires, this is not the point of things. This is not what we're here for. And this is the lesson that Yeshua is giving to Peter right here. Peter just only thinking about the physical life of Yeshua and not understanding what the grand plan is, which deals with the spirit of the man. That he has to actually give his life and die for the people. And so likewise, when we think about how this verse, Matthew 16 and 24, relates to you and I, If we think that we are going to follow after Messiah and we're not making sacrifices in our life for the kingdom, you're not getting it. You're not understanding what the purpose of this life even is. He said, if anyone wishes to come after me, let him deny himself. Let him deny his own carnal desires. And take up his stake. Well, they don't really understand this whole stake thing yet, because Yeshua is just only first talking about himself being killed just for the first time right here. They don't understand that he's about to go over here to this place and go through this big ordeal and be crucified. He's literally going to carry this stake up this hill that he's going to die on. And so Yeshua is saying, if you want to be a disciple of mine, if you want to follow after me, there's going to be this thing that's going to kill you that you're going to have to carry. And for us, that thing really is this life, this faith, which is contrary to everything that's going on in the world. This life that we live is anti-world.
That's why I always say, I'm like, we ain't living yet. We trying to get to really, we trying to get to the real life, you know. This is to get to it. We ain't living yet.
This ain't life. I got sit up here, my back hurt, it's hot. I'm uncomfortable all the time. This ain't life. If Yeshua said he is life, then once I'm transformed into his character, once the thing that he placed inside of me is completely realized, then now I'm experiencing life. Now I just got like a little piece of life.
You can see what you need to be looking forward to.
Yeah.
As opposed to people looking forward to things in this world.
Yeah. Because this ain't nothing.
Yeah.
This ain't nothing. If you just think about the fact that to me, when you think about just creation, look out and see all these wonderful, amazing things. And all the things that go into just, how things are, things grow, and everything's kind of intertwined, and stuff that we put out is good for that tree, and the tree that tree put out is good for us. And all of these things kind of work together. You got the bees going around and taking the stuff from the flowers and putting it with the stuff on the plants, and they bringing forth stuff that I eat, and then I eat it, and then the stuff that come out of me go into the ground and it fertilizes there. It's just, everything is just, but that's just a piece of the perfectness of creation. It's not even functioning right.
Yeah.
Creation ain't even functioning how it's supposed to in its awesome, in its messed up state. Imagine whenever everything is working the way that it's supposed to be. And we sitting there laying down, and there's a lamb over on this side, and there's a lion over on this side, and we all chilling together. And I'm not scared of the lion biting my head off and eating me. But we have to be able to trust in the Maker and his plan in order to make it to that place. We have to deny ourselves and all of the things that cause us to look at ourselves first and look towards the Master and his plan and see what his plan is and try to align ourselves with that. He said, take up this stake, take up this this task, take up this burden, take up this weight that's contrary to your own will and follow after me. And yeah, I'm calling it a weight because he said, this weight, my yoke is easy. If we allow Yeshua in us to be that driving force.
Yeah, true.
And so, you know, he ends all of this talking about the fact that, you know, what good is it if you live your whole life? You live your whole life, and the only thing you ever did was sit up here and just worry about your own selfish self. You're gonna lose out on life. Because like you said, like you ain't even really experienced what it is in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, we have to really understand, you know, that just like we look at the Torah and understand that the law is spiritual, this life that we live is spiritual. We're in a physical realm, but we have to understand that this is a spiritual existence. And the only way to make it through it is to stay connected to the Most High, who is Spirit, and live our lives accordingly, not, you know, about our own selfish desires, but the will of the Most High on earth as it is in heaven. Okay, does anybody have any thoughts, questions, or comments before we go ahead and be done?
Just that Yeshua is saying it's not gonna be easy.
No. I mean, that's the whole point. The thing that you're carrying is like, imagine taking the main ingredient of your death to the people who are going to use that said instrument. Like, that whole idea is just about doing something that's hard. Not that you're carrying something that's going to kill you, but you're participating in something that, from a carnal perspective, is difficult, to say the least. Right? You're participating in a process, a necessary process that's difficult. But the only way that you're able to reach that goal is to move forward in that difficultness. And so we can look at what Yeshua is saying right here. We can look at ancient Israel. The only way that they was able to make it to the land of promise was to go through this place that the Most High said was going to kill you. It's the exact same message. What's the difference? It's exactly the same. You can't get to the place where I'm trying to take you unless you go through this way that will kill you. This hard road. The easy way is the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think also you talk about profit. There is profit. You will gain, and you know, it's like you can't look at the profit.
Yeah.
You know, the gain that you're gonna make. You will gain, you will profit, but you're gonna lose your soul as a exchange.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
exchange.
Right. And then it's not to say necessarily that, you know, you can't have worldly gains.
But you ain't living for that stuff.
Right, that's the difference. If I'm living for worldly gains, then I'm in the wrong there.
And you put that above people. That's
Right. That's when you done messed up.
and above righteousness. That's
Yes.
when you,
That's when you done messed up.
that's the whole people get.
But
right.
you know, you can very well live a life for the kingdom that's centered around the people and have things that people in the world want and desire. It's not one for the other. Like, you don't have to be in a particular status to be righteous. But when people live their life for worldly gain, you know, that's obviously wrong.
Yeah.
And that's going to always have you on the wrong side of what it is the Most High has for us. And so we have to live our lives sacrificing those things which we, in our selfish carnal desires, desire, and let our wants and desires be about what it is that the Most High will have for us to be doing. And when we live our life in that way, we gain life.
Yeah.
All right, so that being said, we will be done for now. Y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat to continue with both the words of the Master and the Torah portion. For now, we'll say Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.